is project closeout? Boy, when you hear that, you might think, oh my gosh, but project closeout is key. You don't want to swim across a mile-wide channel just to drown 5 feet from shore. If you're going to be good at the project, you need to be good at project closeout. So how can we turn project closeout from chaos to calm? I will show you some tips that you can use to manage this process well. Stay with us. So project closeout refers to the final phase of a construction project where all activities, tasks, and obligations are completed and the project is officially concluded. Tasks for project closeout include final inspections, completion of documentation, submission of as-built drawings, resolution of any outstanding issues, and obtaining client acceptance. This is basically where we button it all up, we package it, and we put a nice little bow around it. Now, here's the key thing. A lot of companies and projects have trouble with 4 key things. Number 1, estimating bust. Number 2, production loss. Number 3, rework. But number 4, one of the bigger ones, is schedule creep, meaning we think we're going to be at the project a certain amount of time, but that just keeps extending and extending and extending because we did a decent job of building the project, but we didn't do a good job of finishing it. So we have to be good at project closeout and get done. There's this concept called the window of doom, which means that if the project duration is this open window, right? The longer that window is open, the longer black swans can fly in and destroy your project, like big risks or problems or damage or storms or acts of God or whatever the case may be. So the longer that window is open, the more money you spend. So we got to narrow that window. We got to close that window as soon as we can, which means we've got to be good at project closeout. So here are some things to consider. Number 1, final inspections. Keep track of this from day 1. Keep those, and typically they're on a green card or a green tag, right? Keep those lists of inspections and those sign-offs with you from day 1. Make sure that you're signing off work proactively throughout. That way you'll have those ready for final sign-off at the end of the project. Number 2, documentation completion. Complete all project documentation, including record drawings, as-built, operations manuals, and any other required paperwork. In fact, it's a best practice to collect these as you go as a part of the quality process and to discuss them in the pre-construction meetings. Here's my look at the whole situation. Usually at around 2/3 point of the project, 2/3 of the way in, I'll really start to hit this home. We'll start to create any lists. We'll look at our submittal register or our procurement log, see what deliverables are required, look at any other inspections, any other key paperwork, any other documentation, and we'll start checking that off, maybe even putting it into a scrum board early on, like I said, at the 2/3 point in the project. And some people might be like, that's a little early. No, it's not. If you start early and you're proactive, you can get ahead of it and you'll still probably be in a mad rush at the end. So start early. 3, one thing that you're going to need to make sure that you do is focus on client acceptance. Typically, what this means is you're going to need to know what it means to comply with your substantial completion requirements, your temporary certificate of occupancy, and your certificate of occupancy, and your final completion requirements. Now you're probably thinking, hey Jason, we all know this. Hey, but I could go to any project in the United States and ask them, hey, what does it mean to be substantially complete or finally complete? And most of them don't know. They haven't looked at the AHJ websites, the city or the county websites, and they haven't looked at their prime agreement to see what it means to be substantially complete. Typically, it means that you're going to have all of your life safety sign-offs, your elevator inspections, your fire alarm testing complete, your fire sprinklers complete, your preliminary balancing report. You'll have to have a punch list. The building will have to be ready for occupancy. Everything will have to be well through functional performance testing to where all of your systems are working. Like there is a inspection signed off. You'll typically have to have the engineers go through and do an inspection and a sign off. There are a lot of requirements for this. And so for your owner to accept the building, not only will you have to go through the commissioning process which I'll link you to in the description below. We have another video on that. But you'll also have to have all the sign-offs, all the documentation, the punch list, and meet all the requirements. So typically, and actually this is really good stuff. I typically like to use vPlanner, and what I'll do is I'll link all of my requirements for project closeout and owner acceptance in vPlanner. And what it does is it does a forward and backward pass, and it says, hey, if this is your milestone, how many days do you have until you have to start these activities? And if you're behind, it will put a negative number on your tasks. And you can see it in this complex pull plan, in this complex diagram, and then actually filter it out week by week. And I typically like to check those off as I go and really burn through that list or that pull plan all the way to the end. You've got to have that visual. You've got to have that understood by the entire project team, and you've got to be working at that proactively way in advance. Like I said, 2/3 point through the project. So you have to know what are the requirements for the owner to accept this building. Number 4, subcontractor and vendor closeout. We need to close out change orders. We need to close out contracts. We need to get any lien waivers done. We need to pay retainage. We need to get everybody closed out so that none of that is left open at the end of the project. And we are 100% ready not only to close those out, but to make sure that everybody's paid on time. Number 5, punch list. You will, at your substantial completion milestone, have a punch list. You'll want to work through that, and I'm talking about the architect and owner punch list, right? Work through that before your final completion. And so one suggestion that I would give you for that is start working in one-piece flow. Start working with quality as you go, quality at the source, finish as you go. But there's a frame of time at the end of the project in that 2/3 portion, that last third, where you'll want to start creating incomplete work list, really get contractors signed off, and really try to deliver a 0 defects product before you do the punch list. If you want to leave some paint and things for the architect, that's fine. I've heard that a million times. But the bottom line is, in order for you to get substantial completion, you're going to have that architect's punch list complete, scheduled, and you'll have to complete it between substantial and final completion while the owner is occupying. This is very difficult. And you're going to have to engage your final clean contractors and really maintain not only the owner move-in, but also the completion of those activities. So there's a heavy lift between substantial completion and final completion to complete the punch list. Number 6, make sure you're closing out any permits. If you're in an area like I am, where you're in Phoenix, you'll have to close out traffic permits, dust permits, SWIP permits. You'll have to make sure that any of your demolition permits are closed out. Like the closing of permits is a huge activity. Best practice for me is to outline all of those permits early on, understand when the renewals are required and when you have to supply a notice of termination, and to really manage that and have something that you can reference so you can close those out quickly when it's time. And the last thing that I want to mention as a part of this, because some of these other items I've mentioned on the commissioning video, but obviously get ready to demobilize and demobilize well. So as a part of this process, you're finishing your commissioning. You're finishing your work, right? You are finishing all of your paperwork. You're managing a punch list. You're making sure to turn over documentation. You're closing out contracts. There's a lot to manage. The key here for me is to close down areas as you go and to hold on to the wins that you have. You can't have that whole building finishing all at once. Now, I've always heard, and everybody's heard, hey, I want to lock doors and be done. The locking of the doors thing doesn't really work that well, because you always have your balancing technicians and your controls contractor and your owner coming into spaces, right? More appropriately, I think what we need to do is make sure that the areas are finished, and then do walks daily, and really understand that there's a level of final clean and general contractor, labor, carpenter, logistical help that you need to utilize on your project. But the key here is to phase it out. Do a burn down chart and say, how many rooms, how many areas would I have to finish and clean to burn down to my end date? And how am I going to demobilize the site? How am I going to demobilize the fence, my equipment, my trailers, and my staging yard, so that it is ready to turn over and deliver as a beautiful final product for the owner? These are the things that you need to start thinking about as you close out the project. So this really is an art form. It's going to take a really intelligent person, most likely the project superintendent, to really orchestrate all of this. The bottom line is, remember all of these key considerations. And as a free gift, as a part of this video, in the description below, I'm going to give you a beautifully formatted Canva document that lists all the considerations that you need to understand and remember as a part of project closeout. But here, just in summary, start early, no later than 2/3, orchestrate the process, follow the checklist that we're going to give you as a free gift, and make sure to orchestrate a beautiful completion for your owner because you know the requirements and you have a plan. I hope you've enjoyed this YouTube video. On we go.